Imagine
No, it's
not
fine.
being Leeds, not feeling this pain, not dancing through thunder, not walking through rain. Imagine not rising with fists in the air when the world turned its back and no one would care. We've lived in the ashes, we've drowned in defeat, but still we stand proud on our battered old feet. Imagine not loving with all that you are. Imagine not being Leeds. In the heart of Leeds, mighty Rhinos, hear our call. Through trials and triumphs, we stand tall. In this podcast journey, we find our way. Together united, brighter days that stay.
Welcome back to a Mighty Rhinos podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Mighty Rhinos podcast. I'm joined tonight by my sponsor, Matthew. Imagine not being Leeds. Thanks for joining me tonight. How are we doing?
You're welcome, mate. Honestly, just say I'm your brother. I'm also his brother. Let's let the cat out of the bag. Main sponsor, brother, older brother. But yeah,
Oh,
I'm good now.
Instead of people saying twins.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see my intro. Yeah, we're cute with Henry saying that at the end as well. Yeah, class. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Hope you're good.
Good. I just wanted to jump on because, like I say, I've been wanting to have you on since I started. But obviously, I know you're busy with your Leeds United podcasts. So how's that going at the moment? Are you doing one tonight or?
Yeah, I'm not sure about one tonight. I put a video out early while I was at work, but I upload videos most days, as you know. Busy with work, family, and the channel. But yeah, channel's going well, mate. Thank you. Looking forward to a tough game on Saturday against Man City. So, but yeah, it's nice to break away and have a chat about rugby, which is a passion of mine too. Not as passionate about it as you are, but I do love my rugby league, as you know. I've grown up watching it, so
yeah,
a different chat for me tonight. So yeah, I'll enjoy it.
Well, we obviously we grew up with Rhinos, obviously. People won't know, but as mum used to work, didn't she, for Rhinos 2000, wasn't it? So we went to quite a lot of the games back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been entertaining up to like teens sort of thing. Been to a lot of games, haven't we? So we've seen a lot of grand final wins and World Cup challenge at Ellen Road. So that's something that we have a bit in common with playing at your place. But I just wanted to jump into York game. We obviously played York. Well, it's last week now, isn't it? How did you get to watch most of the game or all at game or?
Yeah, bruv, yeah. I got to watch. I watched it all. Like, obviously, I don't watch as much rugby as I used to, but when I'll always watch Rhinos game. And yeah, I mean, York, it's a funny one because I never thought I'd see a day where York sort of made Super League, but they've had a good couple of seasons and look like they've been banging on the door for, like I say, the last couple of years. Had a really good result against Hull KR week before, didn't they? Which was a surprise at the time, but the more you look at it, with what's been looming with Hull KR, what they did at the weekend and what they've got to come this weekend against us, we've got a couple of big weeks, so it doesn't surprise me actually that York give them a game. But I didn't expect them to follow it up with a win at Leeds, and I don't expect York to keep winning week in, week out. So the game itself, I expected a Leeds win. It's pretty much as I thought the game would go. I thought Leeds had a point to prove after getting beat by Lee. York, I think, had climbed that mountain the week before, and I didn't think they could go for it again. So, yeah, you know what it was, mate? It was a lot of players out against Lee, a lot of players back in for York, and we needed just to sort of get that first win under his belt. And I thought we performed really well. You know, a bit scratchy in defence at times. Thought Jake Connor coming back pulling strings what was needed.
Yeah,
I think Brodie Croft looks a lot better when he isn't having to dictate the game. Brodie Croft looked a lot better, obviously, in this game for that reason. You've got the kicking game of Connor, and it just means sort of you've got Brodie Croft who can sort of just play the game as he sees, be a bit more of a runner, be a bit more creative ball in hand. And I thought Brodie Croft had one of his better games in the Leeds shirt, to be fair. I thought he played really well.
Yeah, no, I agree. We speak about Jake Connor quite a lot on my other podcast. Everybody seems to think that we can't play without him, but it's one of those where you take your Mikey Lewis out of the team, you take your Jackson Hastings out of the team. He's a clinical player. It's, you know what I mean, every team's got one, haven't they? So,
Man of Steel last year.
but yeah, no, I agree.
You take the best
think,
player out of any side, Jordan, and you're going to struggle out here.
Oh yeah. I think I agree with what you said though about York. I think I wouldn't say that they kind of did above what they should have done, but like beating they weren't champions at the time, but world champions anyway. But they could have like won a couple of games by like Wakefield, Huddersfield, and then made their way up to Rovers. It was a bit of a surprise how they just first game and that's it. But as we speak all the time about it, we know probably Willie Peters were looking ahead at the MKM Stadium match with Broncos, which we've done it, haven't we? Rhinos have done it. It's not uncommon, is it, for you to step your foot off the gas a little bit, I suppose?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we all know, like, when you've got a World Cup challenge looming or a Challenge Cup final or whatever, we see it a lot. You see a bit of a eye off the ball the week before and sometimes a bit of a hangover the week after, which I hope we get from Hull KR after, but what I will say is Hull KR is they're a fantastic team, and losing 2 points to York, yes, it's a surprise, but there's a long way to go in season for them to make them points up, and I fully expect them to do that. But like I say, we're just really pleasing to see Leeds at home, first home game of the season, get the win, because at home, Headingley should be a fortress for Leeds Rhinos. We've had a fair few years now where we've been, below average, been bang poor, really. And as home form, we've had Wakefield come and turn us over. We've had all sorts of teams come and turn us over, and it's not a good place to be. So it was nice for us to get that win. Monkey off us back, second game, first game at home. And it was really nice to see Sivo score a couple of tries as well after a heartbreaking year last year. I mean, I don't know how much that's going to have taken out of him, bruv. I know he's a big, strong, physical winger. I actually think we've got two of the slowest wingers in Super League. I know Sivo's known for being... I aren't too sure how quick they are, but at bringing the ball away from the line and acting as another forward in an opening set when you try to get away from your line and try to gain territory, I think he'll be fantastic, just same as Ryan Hall. But I think when you've had such a bad layoff, and mentally, I've seen an interview with him as well, bruv, where he was saying he was dead nervous before game, like trying to get your body... Try to get your body used to playing again, and trusting your body is massive. So the mental health side of stuff even in sports massive. So for him to get out there and not only make it through the 80, but also score a couple of tries, were probably my most pleasing thing of the game, because we've brought Bird over, which I'm sure you'll speak about, but we don't want to be losing a winger for season, a centre for season. I want to see Sivo. We had it with Fuster 2 a few years ago. You see him for 3 or 4 games and he's out for 6 or 7. I'm hoping this now is Sivo for the season, and hopefully he's going to put up big numbers like Ryan Hall should on the other side as well, bruv.
Well, yeah, like you say about we've got 2 big wingers, which we have. I mean, Ryan Hall's 38 years of age, and Mako Sivo's 32. So a little bit annoyed, because obviously I think we spoke about this before. I were a bit dubious about having a 32-year-old winger. I want someone, if we're going to get an Aussie or something, I'd rather us get a young player in. But you're right with what you were saying. We have got technically 2 slow wingers, really. Because then it kind of, that big question on, I like Riley Lum. I like Alfie Edgill. I think them 2 are good. And they did well for us last year when Sivo went out for 13 months. They did job for us. So it was almost like Sivo played Ash Hanley's testimonial and he did his ACL. And it was like, we didn't have him for like 5-6 games and then lose him. We didn't really miss him because we didn't really have that impact for him, do you know what I mean? So it was one of those, but he had to come back, and he had to be explosive, and I thought he was. I was surprised him scoring 2 tries. But yeah, we're looking good. We're looking good. What's your opinion on Daniel Levi?
Great signing. Really excited about that signing. We needed someone to come in there who can I think offers something a little bit different to O'Connor as well. I think you look at O'Connor and obviously, he used to be a loose and he plays hooker. He can play sort of anywhere, I think, in that sort of pack apart from prop. He's a really good player. And you'll see a lot of times this season, you'll see them both on pitch at the same time, with O'Connor probably filling in at loose. But Levi's just he's a proper old school hooker. Does all dirty work, great tackler, close to the line. He gets in there, gets it ruck, and he'll sneak a few tries. He ain't bad ball to boot as well. I remember his time at Huddersfield. He's just a really good hooker. I was surprised when we signed him. I sort of look at him as a hooker who can probably play 80 minutes as well, which obviously will be sharing a lot of workload with O'Connor. But again, O'Connor's, he's come into his own now. He's not really a young player anymore. He's sort of in that next bracket now where he's got a bit of experience behind him. And I think learning even more from someone like Levi is a brilliant player. And yeah, I'm buzzing with them. As two hookers there who are both starting hookers. So I don't look at either of them and think one's weaker than the other, but I think it's great competition for each other and they'll both elevate each other's game. Great signing for Leeds Rhinos. And I'm sure if Leeds do anything good this season in terms of a top 4 finish, a final, maybe even a trophy, I'm sure Danny Levi will have had a great part to play in that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know if you know, but during the York game, this is what I actually like about the idea of this. And I don't know whether it was Brad Arthur's, way of thinking going forward, whatever. But because O'Connor was naturally a forward or a second rower, whichever, he ended up putting him at loose during that game. Danny Levi then played hooker. So you've got that option there, you see, because Jared O'Connor's quite a high tackler in a game. He is very much one of the high tackles, like, for Leeds most weeks. So, when you think of like Cam Smith going off for a rest or whatever, and you've got Jared O'Connor on, like, you can rotate that round. And I don't think any Super League team can say that you've got, basically you've got a second rower as your hooker, as your number 9. And you can play him at loose forward. Like you'd normally say if there's injuries, but as I've read up on stuff, he can literally just slot back in there like no's happened. So we are quite lucky in that sense.
Well, it's like that, Jordan. You can say you start with Cam Smith or you start with Palacian at 13. You can take one of them off if they're getting leggy, leave O'Connor on the pitch and just move him to loose and then bring Levi on for the forward going off. It just gives us more options. And if a forward gets injured, you can make that move as well, even if it's not like a tactical sort of sub. So it just gives him more options in there, knowing that Levi as well can get through big minutes. But yeah, like when you see these hookers, we've seen it with, what's his name at Warrington or St. Helens, their hooker, I keep forgetting his name, who used to be a cast. Darryl Clark, that's the one. That explosive sort of pace from the quick ruck speed, basically quick plate ball. Danny Levi is going to give you that, and it's I don't think that's O'Connor's game. I don't think O'Connor's great at ruck speed. That ain't his game. O'Connor's a really efficient passer, efficient tackler. Doesn't do anything crazy. He's just a solid 7-8 out of 10 every game. Where Danny Levi's a bit more of a risk taker. We'll see a slow retreat in defence and he'll go for that gap. So I think it's a great option. Two great hookers, but both complement each other really well. So yeah, we'll made up with that signing, bruv.
I think I do think, because obviously we speak about it in the other podcast that they all, well, them both of them, and probably me included, I suppose. We do struggle without O'Connor and without Jake Connor. Sorry, and I think I said this to Carl, and I think he disagreed with me. But if it come to a point where Jake Connor were injured, I wouldn't think it's ridiculous to put Levi at 7. I think Levi at 7 and Brodie Croft at 6 and then O'Connor at hooker. I think that could work. So there's options there. Do you know what I mean? I do rate that George Brown as well. That's come through. So he's had an outstanding couple of weeks.
Well, what I'll say about that is, I agree with that. If you're a really good hooker, some of them can fill in there. We've seen the best of the bunch in Rob Burrow. I don't think there's a massive difference in offence. You can do both roles quite well if you're a decent ball handler and you've got a bit about you. So I think Levi could do that. Touching on George Brown, I think he's one of those exciting talents that looks like he'll step up and make his way in the first team. I think it sort of signifies when you watch George Brown this season. I know we've only seen flashes, but it's the flashes that stand out. And when you compare him to Jack Sinfield,
Yeah.
as much as we all wanted Jack Sinfield to work, he's not. I think you can already see George Brown's ahead of what Sinfield was, and Sinfield's been on the fringes for 2 or 3 years. George Brown's been here 2 minutes, and he already looks a more exciting player.
George Brown has got that Danny Maguire flair about him. Like, I'm not saying he's Danny Maguire, but he's got that little something else where I feel like given some time, like nurture him sort of thing, I reckon he could get there. So I agree. I'm hoping that because we've got rumours circulating that that Brody might be leaving at some point. He's basically got at the end of his contract. He don't know whether he's going to re-sign, and obviously with this Perth Bears nonsense going around, we know he's played for Melbourne, so we know that he can play in NRL. He might go back home, and that's a slot in maybe for George Brown. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, what we'll say, Brodie Croft, if he gets to the end of this season, we've had him for 3 seasons. That's probably a season more than I expected him to stay at Leeds. I won't lie. I don't think we've seen the best of Brodie Croft. I don't. I think we've seen him in flashes. I always remember that game for Rob Burrow, the M&D game against Lee, where they were crying when he scored, the emotions. Goes to show he's a really good guy, wears his heart on his sleeve. Actually, I love him as a person. And that was probably his best game in the league shirt. But I think he's a moments player. And unfortunately for us, he hasn't done what he did at Salford. And, for me, Brodie Croft, looking at Leeds last 2 seasons, especially, bro, he should have been standout man, to get sort of not only surpassed by Connor last year, but absolutely it was streets ahead of Brodie Croft. And I think Brodie Croft's a better rugby league player than Jake Connor. Genuinely, I think Brodie Croft's class. I don't think we've seen the best of him at Leeds. Hopefully this season, he's got 2 tries already in 2 games. His best season, I think 6 or 7 tries for Leeds. He should be scoring more tries than 7 tries a season. He's already on 2. So hopefully he'll kick on and have a better season than I think his best for us is yet to come. And I think this is our best side we've had probably since, as maybe 15 season. I know we won it again in 17, but maybe this looks our best squad, I think. We've got depth in a lot of areas. We've got a decent mix of experience, but not really over the hill. Yeah, we've got a couple of 30-year-olds, Callum Watkins, Sevo and Hall, but we haven't got 7, 8, 9 players who are all 30 plus. We've got a nice mix there. I think of, you look at Aletsky, he's experienced without being 30. We've got quite a lot. McDonald, we've got a few now, who are mid-20s who have experience. So I look at it and think, with that sort of side around Brodie Croft, this might be the season he kicks on and does really well. I do think when you're as talented as Brodie Croft is, and you've won stuff over here and you beat Man of Steel, he hasn't done it in Australia for how good he is. I know he's played there, but he hasn't gone there and owned it like Jackson Hastings and like Jay Field and French. And there's a lot of players who are mediocre over there or decent, but not the top of the game. They come over here, and it's how long can you keep me when they're the top of our game before they have to, they don't want to retire thinking, what if? So I think Brodie Croft fits in that sort of mould of a Jackson Hastings, who came over, played for Salford as well, bossed it over here, and then had to himself go see if he were good enough to do it over there. It's strange to me that Bevan French is still in the competition, that Jay Field, because I'm dead certain that they're good enough to play in Australia. Obviously, they're the best. They're best of the crop over here. But I look at Brodie Croft, and think it is coming at some point. He's got to surely get a starting 6 jersey over there at a club, maybe a Perth Bears, maybe a club who aren't expected to win the NRL, and have a crack at it. Surely that's coming at some point. He's too good not to have a crack, bro.
Well, it's I know George Williams is going back into. I can't remember where he's signing for, but he's signing back for NRL, isn't he? So,
well, I'll say right quickly, bro, before you move on.
Shock me if he goes.
Right quickly before you move on, to talk about George Brown, I don't know if depends when Croft leaves. I think you've got people like George Brown, you've got Riley Lum, Ed Gill. You've got 3 there, and I know the other 2 are a bit further on in the development than what George Brown is. But I think you've probably got another 12 months until they're probably ready. Riley Lum and Ed Gill, if Sevo and Hall retire this year, maybe they're looking at pushing for a start. I think George Brown, if Croft was to leave, I don't think George Brown will be ready for Croft's shirt next season. I think he's probably, he needs to be on the fringes for at least the whole season. If Croft leaves at the end of the season, I'd be expecting Leeds to put their hand in the pocket and go bring another Croft to the club. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things like you're saying about Hall. I think that's what I suppose exciting. Maybe a bit nervous for Rhinos fans, but for say, for example, you know, when you pick people like Jordan Lilly and stuff that you know, were there at wrong time and etc. When you actually think of it, you know, Civil's 32, Rhinos 38. They could ideally retire together, and then straight away you've got two spots there for next
Timing's
season.
everything.
So it's not
Timing
ridiculous
is everything.
that you.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah. It's not ridiculous that you get Lum at 2 and Edgel at 5, and they're your wingers, and I'd be happy with that because they've proven that they can do it. It's just you've got that cover there, you cover, and then you now need cover for them, don't you? So yeah, it's one of them. Yeah, it's just exciting, isn't it? Like I say, we see what we can do. What's your expectations for this season then? Where do you think do you reckon we'll do a good run? Do you reckon we'll beat Wakefield to start with?
Yeah, bloody hope so. Top 4's got to be the aim, minimum aim. If we can get a little bit of momentum and a little bit of consistency, which I think Leeds have lacked consistency. I think at times under Brad Arthur, we've looked one of the best sides in Super League, but it's just putting that consistent run together. We've got the best side and the best coach I think we've had in a fair few years, like I say. And we're an outside shout for me to make the top 2. But to make the top 2, you've got to jump either OKR or Wigan, which seems way off it. But what I will say is St Helens, it's a whole new look at St Helens. Loads of new players, new manager. I like Paul Rowley. But I think we can finish above Saints. I think we can finish above Warrington. You know, I think we can finish above Lee. But you look at it, and for me, I'm looking at Hull KR, Wigan, Lee, and Leeds as the 4, which I think is probably where you are. But
yeah,
it would be nice to be hitting that top 2, but top 4, and I really want a Challenge Cup run. You know, I want to see us pushing for a trophy this season, and the Challenge Cup's probably the easiest one to win. I would suggest, you know, the grand final's going to be tough. Usually the grand final, brother, is that you end up with 1 and 2 against each other most finals, don't you? You know, you get that extra, you get that home tie, you get that extra week and stuff. It tends to be where 1 and 2 normally meet in the final. Outside the Leeds Rhinos era that could win it from fucking 15th. But it'd be nice to see us get to the Challenge Cup and hopefully bring that home, because that's a trophy that we haven't won as many times in our lifetime. We've had a lot of losses. So yeah. Silverware, mate, would be nice, but a top 4 finish and to be in the conversation to get to a final, that's where Leeds should always be. We should always be in the conversation. That's where I expect us to be this season.
I just think no, I totally agree. I think with the side we've got, it's a bit rubbish, if I must say that. Like, we're not in a final or anything like that, because, like I say, on paper we have got, you know, full strength. I think we've got just as good side as anybody. It's just how form hits in it, and when you slope it, because obviously every team has a slope point in season, and we always seem to get it at the worst times. Lucky enough, we actually have got lucky last couple of seasons, because we've had injuries at the beginning of the season, and we've kind of got everyone back for the middle, and then that's kind of how we progressed last year and got up the table. But I do think, when you think of Brodie Croft, Jake Connor, I think for these sort of players to stay, they've got to be in grand finals. They've got to be in Challenge Cup finals. I think disrespectful is probably a bad word to say, but like, they want to play. You know, when you think of example, you think of Reece Martin. You know, absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. It won 2000. What, 24? 2020. I think it was. Won Challenge Cup with Luke Gale when they beat Salford.
Cool.
That's the only trophy he's won with us. And then he got beat at grand final with St Helens, and then decided to move to Rovers, and he's won 4 trophies. So it's one of those, you know. I've spoke about him to Carl before, and you know, can't say a bad word about the guy. He was great for us. Buzzing that he's gone on and carried on in Super League, you know, with a great team and made them better, obviously. But it just shows you that's obviously a worry of every player. You know, they want to win trophies, and if Leeds can't deliver that sort of promise, if you want to say, that's where like your Jake Connor and your Brodie Croft will go elsewhere.
My sort of concern is, you want in rugby, it's all about cycles. You know, you'll hear a lot of people talk about cycles in rugby. You know, everyone's sense of it. Saints have just been on their cycle. It's how it basically now is when you won at top sides in Super League, how many trophies can you win while you're on top? Because that's what tends to happen. You know, we had a cycle, went on a decade. You have the odd spike, don't you, where we randomly sort of won it in 2017 when, you know, we're weird to think we'd beat Cass when we'd got hammered by him every other game. But like Saints had a spell of dominance. Wigan have, Ulster are probably on it now. Will it just be a 1 or 2 off, or will it be a sustained period? But I do think you're hoping, you're wanting Leeds to have that. The problem for us is, like I say, I don't think we've got loads of players over the hill, but we have a cluster, you know, Watkins, Sevo, Hall. Then you look at Newman going, McDonald going, you know, they've already poached, you know, Gannon, who I think Gannon is probably one of the best young forwards. I say young, he's early 20s, one of the best young forwards in the English game. I think he's top draw. Will play for England, Great Britain. If
21, Gannon.
Yeah. Luke, Gannon, Morgan Gannon for me is one of the brightest talents this country's produced in terms of a forward in the last 10 years. I see elements of Sam Burgess in him. I would gutted to see him go. I think he's absolutely top drawer, and he's gone through a lot of injury with his concussions. But the worry for me is there's 2 or 3 players going to Australia. There's 2 or 3 other players being rumoured to be looked at for Australia. You know, your Aledski's rumoured, you know.
No, I'm about to say, they're poaching Aledski again.
Connor's been rumoured. I know they may sign deals and stuff, but we know Leeds don't pay big bucks. We know we rely on loyalty a lot. What Leeds promise is a competitive wage and a competitive team to be aiming for trophies. You may not earn what you'll earn here and there, but you'll be challenging for trophies. Leeds' problem is there's no proof in that pudding for the last 8, 9, 10 years that we are competing for trophies. So the only way that changes is by winning trophies, because we're never going to be we're not going to pay as much as Warrington. We're not going to pay as much as Saints, Wigan, probably Lee. We're probably going to pay 5th, 6th best in league, I'd say. And then you compare it to Australia and it's an absolute landslide. So we need to be competing for trophies to try and keep any sort of nucleus we have, whether it's this season or in 5 years, to keep that together. We need to be winning trophies, or at least in conversation. So my sort of vibe on it is we've got a really good squad now, but whichever way you look at it, it's only going to be this season, because you're losing 2 to Australia straight off the bat, and you've got Watkins and Hart. So you're probably going to, this starting 13, bruv, you maybe 3 or 4 of these won't be starting next season for those reasons. So that's a bit of a shame. So it's a bit of a rebuild again, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, 100%. Like I say, it is very much. I think that's what I like about Rovers, is that they have built over a period of time, and they have got their sort of foundation sorted. But yeah, no, I agree. It's getting to that point now where, you know, we do lose Sivo, Ryan Hall. We're losing Cam Smith to Wakefield. You know, we've got that going on. It could be a bit of a rebuild where significant changes, you know, in key positions. So it could be very much like that. But as you know, proof is a pudding, like you said. That's been, I think, the main reason why we've not been successful for the last 10 years is we've had a rebuild for 10 years. You know, we've had God knows how many 6 and 7s. We've not had no time for any gel or any, you know, link plays or like that. We've to be fair, we've had quite a few wingers as well. You know, since Tom Briscoe went, you know, with Fusatua, you know, Ryan Hall's back there. We've swapped Edgill and Riley Lum. We've had quite a lot of mixes about, to be fair. So it's one of those. But yeah, I agree. It is going to be a thing of, I do think, as best chances this season. And then, like I say, next year could be a lot different. So yeah, it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so you think, like I say, you think we'll get playoffs in this season? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Playoffs, top 4. We shouldn't even scrape it, mate. It should be top 4 as a minimum aim.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think. I think I was talking to Carl about it last season. I do think if we'd have managed to beat Saints last season, if we wouldn't have had that game, I reckon Leeds probably could have gone all that way to the grand final. I do believe we're in that element at that time. I just think, you know, we fell short, obviously.
Yeah. I think our coach, Brad Arthur, He's one of them coaches who can he can squeeze more ability out of players. I think at certain times, I think he's got an aura about him. He's got a stern steel about him. Where I think, like you say, if you're not performing to your best, you're going to know about it. You know, he's going to pull you on one side. He's going to give you a rollicking, and I think he's just raised the standards at the club, where the standards were up here under, you know, ex-coaches and mainly the players we had at the club, you know, Peacock, Sinfield, Maguire, but they all set the standards. And I think under that, we've fell way below the standards Leeds Rhinos should have as a club. And there's many reasons for that. You know, you talk about a rebuild, we talk about one now. The rebuild from those players leaving and retiring, a rebuild you never want to see again in terms of, you know, how far it fell. You know, it was literally best club in the world to, you know, struggling. You're going to be playing championship rugby next year if you're not careful. There was that much of a fall off. So I think we've got a coach there who's got the standards right back up there. You know, from some of the coaches we've had, you know, to even JJB filling in. We all love Daly. He's class. He knows his rugby. He's passionate. But like, it just goes to show what a proper top draw coach can bring. You know, and even Rowan Smith, we had him for a period of time where we did really well. But again, it's another level. Is this? I think Brad Arthur wouldn't look at a place at LKR. He wouldn't look at a place at St Helens, Wigan, or anyone in NRL. I think he's top draw. And hopefully we can keep him beyond this season, because I think he's the reason we now look like a challenging side again. Plus, he has, I think, player pull power as well. When you're looking at players at market, I think he's got enough credit in the bank. Under Brad Arthur, people know what he's done in game. He's a big name in Australia. People will want to come and play for Brad Arthur. You don't get that with every coach. So I think he's the reason we are where we are. We've now got talent in that squad as well to complement having a great coach. And for the first time, like I said a few times, in 8-9 years, we've got a talented group with a really good coach. And that is a recipe for success in it, let's be honest.
I think I agree with what you're saying about Brad Arthur 100%, but I think joking on the little bit of thing saying here, it's I think because he's got them links, you know, he's allowing these players to be poached, which obviously is rubbish for us. Very much well might have this link with NRL where we might be able to get these players over, but he's also opening that up, isn't he?
It goes to show though, bro, right? This is the thing. This is the double-edged sword. We're having it with Leeds United this season as well now, you know, with certain players being linked away from club for next season. When you're successful, teams want to buy your players. So it seems alien to us at the minute that, you know, and it's frustrating that you're having two players got to Australia, one last season in Ghana, a couple more being linked. I'm wanting my players, you know, I'm wanting Leeds Rhinos players to be linked to moves away, because it means we've got good players. If players aren't getting linked away, you know, you never heard of anyone getting linked, you know, a few years ago when we were poor, because no one gave a shit about us players because we were a poor side. So I want players to be linked to other clubs because it means they're good players in form. The problem is we need to be a side challenging or giving the pay packet to match their ambitions, you know, because money's one thing, but they can go to Australia, be earning money and be challenging, or they can stay at Leeds and be earning a decent salary, but not challenging. That has to change now at the club this season and going forward, because, you know, while ever we are not a decent side, but not quite the top side, this will happen year in, year out, bruv, because we are producing decent talent again. You know, a couple of years down the line, if we haven't won silverware, right, let's be fair, Riley Lum could be scoring 20 tries a season in 2 years' time if we're nowhere near a title. But, you know, 4th, 5th, are we happy with that? Right, Sam, will take him off your hands and give him double his wage at Wigan or double his wage in Australia. This will happen time and time again. So I know you're frustrated by it, mate, but this is something you're going to have to get used to unless Leeds start being an LKR now, start being a St Helens in the last 5 years, and start winning trophy after trophy, because that means something besides the money. So that's what needs to happen for Leeds to be successful, I think.
Yeah, no, and I agree what you're saying about Brad Arthur. I do think he'd do well with anyone in Super League. I didn't really know much of him when he came over, but he was wanting to go home, but now his son signed for Hull FC, so there's a chance. You know, I haven't heard anything that he's re-signing or whatever. But see, this thing, I don't know what you think about it, but does this put doubts in players' minds when you know that obviously you're playing for this coach who's really good, he's backing you, he's expecting so much from you, but you don't know how long they're staying, does that kind of play a part in players' heads, do you think, of like, have we got this coach next season?
Yeah, I suppose it will do, because you know, in rugby, as you know, it's you can't retire on it, can you? You know, you've got to always think about life after rugby. So when you're signing a contract as a new player, you want to know, especially if you're signing for a coach that's persuaded you to come to a club, which will happen a lot. He won't be the only person that persuades him to come. The club, the infrastructure, the players that are already there, the history of the club, the chairman, everything. But they will speak to the coach and find out their role. If you come in and you hit the ground running, then 2 months into the season, you find out coach is leaving at the end of the year. It's not great for your long-term sort of ambition and sort of where you thought you were signing for. But ultimately, I do think it comes down to the player being bigger than that. You've got to, you sign for a club to win trophies. You know full well if you sign a 4-year deal or 5-year deal, say at a club, even a 3-year deal, sport, it's so, form, it can go out a window. You can get sacked in an instant, can't you? A couple of bad results. It's professional sport. These things happen. So I think it's some, obviously, it'll be on players' minds, especially when you think Brad Arthur. I don't look at Brad Arthur, mate, and think he'll still be there in 4 years' time. I don't.
No,
It's been too much smoke about fire for me. He will eventually move and be an assistant or a head coach in the NRL. I think that's where he will go back to, whether it's Parramatta again or somewhere else. So that may play into it. But what I will say, I think we've made some really good signings this season. So it's obviously not affected any business this season. Which it might have done, but it's down to the players in it to knuckle down and get on with it, and hope that if when that time does come, whether it's any club, any player, you've got to then hope the next coach that comes in has seen enough in you to still warrant that, because obviously a different coach comes with different ideas. But yeah, it'll be a factor, bro, but not. I don't think it'll be a massive one.
I think the thing we speak about before on other podcasts is that these coaches in Super League, they can go back home and they can be an assistant and they can do, get more money and they can still do a job. You know what I mean? And still be that valuable member of the squad sort of thing. But yeah, they do come over here to have that challenge of first team coach, don't they, mostly? Especially these Aussies, Kiwis. It's just that worrying it, because we've had it numerous times, haven't we? We got lucky with Tony Smith, because Tony Smith was over in England for many years before we signed him. So he was kind of like a rare person sort of thing. But, when you think of people like, Michael Maguire, Justin Albrook, Brad Arthur, people like that, you know that it's not a holiday, but they're not staying forever. And you do feel like you've got that element of a timer on your team, where if they're signing for 3 seasons, you best win something in them 3 seasons, because you don't know who you're going to get after that. What coach-wise you're getting after that, and you could be struggling.
They come over, really, don't they, to sort of cut the teeth in game. It's like an advanced apprenticeship, like, I know, like, Brad Arthur's been at Parramatta as a head coach and done okay, but usually some of these coaches, like say Holbrook and Maguire, they come over as young coaches, maybe being an assistant, not quite ready for a top job in NRL. They come over here, do 2 or 3 years, win something, go over there, then they're in demand out there. It happens a lot, Sometimes you'll fall on someone like an Ian Millwood, a Tony Smith, someone who sort of comes over, does well, and just loves being in England, and whether Tony Smith never went back to Australia and took Brisbane to a World Cup challenge. You know what I mean? Sometimes they come over here and they just suit the English game. They prefer it here, maybe know the level, and have a successful career in England. Some other coaches come over here, learn the trade, then go back over and do well. Look at Michael Maguire, like I say, came over, bossed it at Wigan, went back, and now is one of the best in game. Trent Robinson come over, Catalan's gone back over there, does the same again. So it's not always just players. So like I said earlier, I'm expecting Jay Field and Bevan French at some point to go have a crack, but it happens with coaches as well. And I quite like that, when after Rowan Smith, I didn't mind it with Rowan Smith when he came over. I'm always excited by a youngish Aussie coming over to a top club in Super League with fresh ideas. We had it with Dave Furner, didn't work out, obviously, with Dave Furner, but he a bit of a shithouse club at the time with Leeds. But any sort of like, mid-40s, early 50s coach who's coming over to the English game, and it does excite me, because we know what it's like over there in Australia. They may not be household names here, but a lot of them make themselves household names before they go back, don't they?
We were We were gutted with Ferner, weren't we?
Yeah, well, that were an exciting one for us, wasn't it? But it just didn't work
Yeah.
out, mate. But yeah, that were
Yeah, no,
a poor time at the club.
we were hoping for big things from Ferner. We thought it was going to be like a Tony Smith, didn't we? And
Yeah.
we were so busy lapping it up in my stag do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It only lasted a couple of days, by the way. We weren't on your stag do for 6 months. It was a couple of
No,
days.
we're
But
not
yeah.
on 6 months. No, I think it would Dwyer's drop goal, wasn't it? It was that game
Against what it cast? No, what it cast? No, I don't know if it was cast.
I can't remember who it was.
It might have been cast.
I think it was cast.
Well, I didn't want to drop goal from in halfway line.
Yeah, no. So yeah, that's probably all the questions I've got for you for tonight.
Sound? Don't know good time, but
yeah, no, brilliant, no. Hopefully I might get you on with some other ones going like in near future. I know you're busy, man, like you say, with all your YouTube videos and your Leeds Uniteds. But I hope you carry on, and I wish you well for your other podcasts that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And I know you're going to a few games, aren't you? So
get to as many as I can, mate. Yeah, as many as I can. Yeah, as many as I can. But yeah, thank you for having me on. It'd be nice to chat about rugby instead of football for a change. Yeah, I'll jump on again at some point. Don't worry.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having Imagine Not Being Leeds on for tonight. I will see you all next week for the Vegas double episode, the A Clash of the Pods.
By the way, I think Leeds win that game.
Vegas.
Yeah, that's for I think Leeds win in Vegas, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
no
I didn't
score
even ask you that, did I? Sorry.
I think Leeds will beat Hull KR in Vegas just because of what they've just achieved last week. I believe we'll win that game. Yes.
Well, yeah, we're hoping. I said this to Carl earlier. I'm hoping they've still got some sore heads, because that might help us all out in that game. But yeah, like I say, just want to mention. Say Carl's going to Vegas, so Carl will be doing some interviews with some Rhinos fans and some Rovers fans. Hopefully, get some players in there. Hopefully, and he will be sending me the vlog for me to do an episode for him. Post that on our podcast shows. But yeah, we'll be back. I'll be back for Two Yorks for a Saint, and obviously for the double episode, Clash with the Mighty Rhinos podcast. That will be probably filmed Tuesday night, so it'll probably be released on a Wednesday. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Matthew. Take care, pal.
You too. Take care. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.